Welcome. We are live here at Ghost and Friends. We have a special episode tonight. We've got the SEC Unfiltered guys in the house. Chris Phillips is trying to get in here. Let me hop him in.
There he
Welcome,
is.
Chris. There's our guy.
Hey, Chris went to Newberry. He went to Newberry.
For those tuned in, they may not know this show was supposed to start 30 minutes ago. I apologize. I was trying to walk Florida fans through why their 2024 season is going to be a slight disappointment. They're optimistic, guys. In case you're wondering, they think 7-5 is that's happening 100%. I'm like, all right.
I mean, it is happening, so we
can. I've been dosed with optimism.
I was about to say, did you just get off Cole's show?
I was going to say, I had a question before you. I mean, let's introduce you guys first. Top right, we got my man Dave Shoemate up here. Welcome, Dave. Bottom left, Mr. Cole Thompson. Bottom right, welcome, Chris Phillips. Thank you guys all for being here. Welcome to Ghost and Friends. Welcome, everyone watching. Let's get in the comments. Let's fill those up, ask some fun questions. Real quick, gentlemen, do y'all ever sleep? Any of you? I see you guys everywhere. Y'all are all on all channels, all the streams, all the time. Is there any rest going on between you three?
Well, no. Dave is like a 1-year-old, so it's like he already is not sleeping.
I was going to say more so for the baby because that's obviously Cole, Chris doing most of the legwork. But no, from a baby standpoint, I haven't been getting much sleep. He actually got diagnosed with COVID today, so that's interesting.
I'm sorry to hear that. Congratulations on the 1-year-old. That's such a fun age, watching them grow and everything.
Yeah,
definitely a little sleep at times. Absolutely. Guys, I'm going to go one by one. Whoever wants to hop in first. I'd love to hear a little bit of a backstory. We talked a little bit earlier, Chris, before we went live. I was just going to use this show. We don't really have any talking points or plans. I just would love to get to know you guys, let my viewers. Hopefully we got some of your guys coming over and welcome SEC Filtered gang. But teach us a little about you guys. Whoever wants to get it, tell us a little background. Chris, I know you founded the show. We'll get to you, or if you want to go first, that's great. But I would like to hear from you on how you created what you guys have going at SEC Unfiltered.
Yeah, if you guys want me to go first, I'll go first. So I'm Chris Phillips, founder, owner of SEC Unfiltered. Fun fact, about 9 months ago, it wasn't SEC Unfiltered. It was the Spurs Up Show, a South Carolina Gamecocks entity. And I'll give you the long story short. Started creating content born and raised a South Carolina fan first, of course. Played college sports, was interested in one day talking about it, making it a career. The whole professional sports thing didn't work out because I was a left-handed pitcher throwing 80 miles an hour, and believe it or not, nobody was interested in drafting me. So quickly had to pivot and moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, worked in the corporate world, hated it, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, just wasn't sure what the path was. And January 2017, like I said, started making content around South Carolina and started at 0 followers across the board, just 0 followers and a dream, really, and a passion for doing it. And, had a lot of influences along the way. And sure enough, we grew to a point to where, we became, I think, one of the top figures in that space. And I think also became a figure in the SEC space to a degree, as much as you can covering one team, but always had the idea to, I knew, I'll never forget spring of 2022, I went to the South Carolina Tennessee baseball series up in Knoxville. And I went with some buddies, and they had a lot of Tennessee friends, and they were like, man, we love the content. We rock with it. We rock with the brand. Like, you should make a Tennessee version of this. And it really got the wheels turning of like, man, if this can be a value and a benefit and a positive for one fan base, why can't it do so for all, at that time, 14 fan bases or now 16 fan bases with Texas and Oklahoma? And some things happened. I evolved and grew as a person, and entrepreneurial goals and goals within business became more and more important. And, it just became time to make that move. I actually tried to start SEC Unfiltered as a separate entity back in 2022, had the social media, everything, but realized very quickly running 2 entities was virtually impossible. Because like you said, we don't get any sleep running one of them. So put that to the side. That was kind of the birth of it, though, at least the idea. And end of 2023, December 27th, we launched SEC Unfiltered. And it's been a hell of a journey, man. I mean, I've never had as much fun as I'm having right now creating content. A lot of it has to do with these guys, Cole, Dave. They've done an incredible job. Our guy Lucas, our guy Dimitri Ravanis, so many others, our writing staff as well, and we're just getting started with really the exciting part. Our first football season, you know what I mean? So, I always know the joys in the journey, and I'm surely, man, I'm enjoying every step of the way, especially this chapter.
I mean, honestly, I had no idea that, y'all have only been around for a short time, that you were Spurs Up before that. I've seen that account. Congratulations on the success with those guys. And then now, obviously, what you guys have going. Told these gentlemen earlier, I'm a huge fan. You're one of the few accounts on Twitter that actually have my notifications turned on for. I love seeing all of it, man. I'm very similar in the same regard as I love Texas football. Don't get me wrong. It's a passion. The Longhorn logo tattooed over my heart. But at the same time, I care about the entire landscape. I care about the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, what used to be the Pac-12, RIP. But it's all fun to cover, and that's the goal for this channel. And so I appreciate that. Dave, Cole, whoever wants to go, give us a little background on yourself, sir.
Barry, you want to go? Man.
Yeah, I'll do it. I got very lucky. I knew very young that I was not going to be playing college athletics. I'm 5'7" and a $142 wet when I was in high school. So immediately knew I had to go in a different pathway. I considered myself a bit of a Troy Bolton because I did musical theater. And initially I wanted to get into voice acting. That was like my big goal, was to actually move out to LA and go into voice acting and do different characters. And they said, go into acting and go into journalism and learn how to write, and then potentially learn how to be on air. And so I did that in college in Alabama. And slowly I started to feel like that my passion was more so in sports. It was fun to talk about. And I grew up in Houston. So naturally I had the Astros and I had the Rockets and I had the Texans, but there was a passion for me growing up in a household where on Saturdays I'd go over to my grandfather's and we'd sit down in his old chair and watch Notre Dame football, where I drink a cherry Twizzler straw of orange Gatorade and just love seeing matchups against Hawaii and matchups against USC and seeing, Reggie go over the top. That was my calling at that point. And I realized that if I could hone in on covering college football, that was the end goal. But it doesn't pay bills. You got to find a way to make it work. So I got a job right out of college working for ESPN on the production side for College Game Day, for Monday Night Football as a PA assistant. Then I started writing on the side for USA Today, covering the Texans. Then I got the job with the Alliance of American Football underneath Charlie Ebersol out in San Antonio. And 4 months later, I was back home in Houston because we all know how that April Fool's joke decided to slap us all in the face. A lot of fun out in San Antonio. I actually still miss that city. It's one of my favorite to go visit and be a part of. If you haven't been, it is a safe haven and a jewel of Texas. So I'm just giving everyone a heads up.
Riverwalk's nice.
Well, I love San Antonio. Started doing more freelance work. Got brought on by actually covering Texas A&M, and that's kind of how it found me, was covering Texas A&M. So I did that for 4 years. On top of that, I got asked to finally do some freelance radio work, and then eventually I got my own radio show for Sports Map Radio, where I work the graveyard shift. So when they say there was no sleep, I am the proponent of, I have no idea what the hell sleep is, and I haven't since 2021 when I started doing 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. every single day and going to sleep every single night at 10 p.m. after doing rundowns and check-throughs and cutting up audio. And eventually I was the one person known in the city as, he knows college football. If we got to get a guest on, call Cole. He knows college football. He loves college football. He eats, lives, and breathes it. And there was a turnaround about 4 months ago where I wasn't really feeling my company anymore that I worked for covering Texas A&M. They were going through new management. They were going through a new buy-in. And I figured, okay, I feel like if I can freelance and I still have another stable job on the side, and I just lost my job at the radio station because the radio station ceased to exist. It's one of those moments. I texted Chris out of the blue and I emailed him. I sent him a track of my YouTube channel. I was like, hey, you want some freelance work? Let's go ahead and let's see if I can make this work. And lo and behold, now here I am. And somehow he still has actually hired me.
I reached out to you initially.
I emailed you, actually. I sent you my YouTube channel.
Humble beast.
Okay.
Humble beast.
I sent you my YouTube channel. I mean, you reached out afterwards and you watched the videos, which I'm thankful for because of somehow you're still not tired of me just yet, which I have no idea how. Most people are like,
Well,
"God,
if you want to know the honest truth, Cole, I think probably what happened, because I'm thinking about it, you probably emailed me and the email slipped through the cracks, because literally I remember one day I was just on YouTube and you popped up on my YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the algorithm hit. And I was like, this dude has it when it comes to like the whole content space what we're doing. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
But yeah, no, I
either way, it worked. It was meant to be.
I come from a background of talking sports. I come from a background of breaking down film. I come from a background of knowing differences between college and NFL. And so I try to be the voice of reason. I also try to be the character. I also try to be a little bit of the wild card. You never know what you're going to get with me when these two have to go ahead and do videos. It's going to be either very calm or it's going to be, Cole, we got to dial you back in. And thankfully, they have not told me once to dial it back. They love the energy.
I call Cole our spark plug. So
I love it. I mean, you can tell he's an energy guy.
He's the microwave, baby. He's instant points off the bench.
How many shots of espresso you got in there? That couple.
It's water for now because I have to be up tomorrow morning because I'm actually filling in with BK and Bucky.
There you go, man. Awesome.
I'm going to be on in the morning on TSU. So yeah, I unfortunately have to sleep tonight because I enjoy doing the morning show with BK whenever I get the chance. So
the vibe you're getting, Ghost, with SEC Unfiltered is Cole and I did that live show Friday. Was it, Cole, 4 to 5? Friday, because you filled in for Dave because of his day.
Yeah, because Dave had to go, and I was watching my grandpa, and my God, that was
parent teacher conference.
It takes a team. So
the vibe you're getting with SEC Unfiltered though is Cole made it a point to crack his energy drink, and I cheersed him, and I thought it was a seltzer, and I had a tequila there for a Friday. So we're just like, we're
two different priorities for doing it.
We're just dudes shooting it, man. We're dudes shooting it.
I love it.
Ghost, but just on a side note, because I feel like Texas fans I follow, they love posting margaritas. I'm like, this must be a Texas thing. Like, these people love
Is Austin's a margarita town?
They love their tequila.
If you're in the comments and enjoy margaritas, say you like a margarita. I personally love margarita. I'm down here south of Austin in New Braunfels, Texas.
I'm like, when in Rome, when on TSU. Let's just
margaritas are everywhere here. San Antonio, obviously, Austin. Hey, it's quick and to the point. I'm not above it to say I'm going to get a little strawberry, sometimes a little strawberry peach. We'll mix it up. I'm not set in any one way. And I'm man enough to say that I can handle the fruity drinks. We're drinking tequila. So I mean, hey.
Bro, I'm a straight shiner. Like, just give me a shiner and shut me up.
That's pretty Texas right there, Bubba.
I say that's about as Texas.
Don't beans in his chili. Don't put beans in the chili, for the love of God.
Listen,
can you please,
Chris? You're my best friend in this podcast. You guys, I got work to do. Beans don't belong in chili. Okay.
Thank you.
They do not belong in chili. There's so many people on Twitter comments. I can't stand it, man. Like I'm judging those people.
Texas is where you go get chili with beans in it if you really want it.
That's not real Texas. I don't want to
know
that Texas.
It's not real Texas chili. It's whatever slop that you want to give to your dog on a weekend night. Like, that's what it is. It's not real chili, though.
I'm there with you. I mean, they don't belong. I don't. In comments, I think most of y'all agree, but I know there's going to be a couple of heinous characters in there that
I want to see it because we're gonna have a war, my dudes or ladies or whoever.
Emily's right on the rocks over frozen for sure. I don't want to brain freeze.
Just make sure it has extra tequila, man. We're good on that. But
I say double up the tequila.
There you go. All right, guys, let's get into a little bit of SEC football. I have a couple of questions regarding Texas and the SEC. Then we'll get to.
Wait, Dave, tell us your story because nobody's heard.
I am so sorry, Dave.
No, you're good. So I started again, Dave Shoemate. I used to work in college football for 9 years. So I went to school at Alabama, just like Cole, a couple years old. Cole, what year did you graduate again?
2016. All
right, so I was 13. So you were a freshman.
I was a freshman when you were a senior.
I was a senior. You were a young buck. All right, so I'm at Alabama. I started working there in football as a student in a recruiting personnel role. After I graduated, I worked there 2 years. After I graduated, I started off in the ticket office for going backwards a little bit. But then I got a job at Miami for the first season, for the 14 season. Then I went to Georgia, then Auburn, Texas A&M, Kansas, and then finished up at UCF. So I've been in, 4 or 5 SEC schools, ran a couple of those departments. And always thought I would do something in sports, kind of like Cole kind of went in depth on his thing. Always knew I wanted to do something in sports, and my minor was TCF, telecommunications and film. So I was at Reese Pfeiffer Hall there. Cole, were you?
Yes, every single day, 4 times a day, more than likely.
Yeah, so I would be there, and but towards the end of it was probably my sophomore junior year. Recruiting departments weren't really a thing when I was in college growing up. Like Ed Manowitz kind of started it. Coach Saban had some early guys, but they were coaches. Like Jeff Collins, who was Georgia Tech's head coach, who knows North Carolina's DC. He was the director of player personnel in Nick's first year in Alabama, but he wanted to be a coach. So they finally hired Ed Manowitz, who worked with the Dolphins with Saban and with Bill Parcells, and kind of wanted to turn it into like an NFL style. So that's where it kind of started. But it really was just us cutting up as students in the back film, doing certain things. You were assigned a coach. And I was like, this is cool. I want to do the NFL personnel side of things. Like, I didn't have that dream. And I want to do something in sports. But in high school, I didn't really think about that. But once I got midway through college, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to get into like a personnel GM management role. Obviously, that didn't work out. Started having a wife, family. We lived in 6 places in like 8 years. She was from Atlanta. We were all over the place. She wanted to get back home. I would never see my kid, honestly, if I was still working it. So I didn't think it was worth it. But I still wanted to do something in sports. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try the podcast, like media side of things. I started Mach 10 Sports and realized how fast with having a kid and stuff, how much it is to put on. People just think, these two can attest. They've done it better than I have. But if you two go, so like, you just turn it on and it's like, all right, just go record yourself. No, like the marketing thing is massive if you want to go. No, it doesn't matter what you're saying if nobody knows you exist. So I thought that was like, man, I have a kid and stuff. I can't kind of keep up with this. I was going to still do it and just kind of do it as a passion. But then I was lucky enough for Chris hit me up and invited me to the opportunity to work here for the SEC Unfiltered. And I was appreciated, blessed for that. So that's where I am at here on August 13th, 2024 at 8:40 or 9:43 Eastern.
Well, I appreciate the backstories, guys. Dave, really hope the little one starts feeling better soon, man.
Appreciate it.
Get some rest up there. But yeah, guys, really cool, man. Thanks again for doing all this. You guys have football, in the blood. You can tell you're all very passionate about it. You care about it. You want to make a career out of it, and you're doing a great job of it. And so it's an honor to have you all here. And so let's get into a little bit of Texas and the SEC. The very obvious topic right now. What are your personal thoughts on the Texas running back room and with everything that's going down in the last, 10 days or so? No one in particular, whoever wants to take that, go right ahead.
Put Jaden Blue in bubble wrap, man. Protect him at all costs. And maybe, just maybe, I saw our friend CJ Vogel talk about this with On Texas Football. That Quinn Ewers Heisman ticket might be worth a sprinkle of some action, because I'd imagine it might put more emphasis on him. I think Texas is going to be fine, but it's just not a great tone to set, I guess. This really stunned me, Ghost, when I went on this morning on ESPN Austin with Aaron Hogan. I'm just out here name dropping. I apologize. But when I went on radio this morning, and I was told that Texas does not have a scholarship running back now that is over 205 pounds. So, my only concern, you play the likes of a Georgia. I think Texas is going to be fine 90% of the time. You play a Georgia, they're going to lean on you. You're going to have to lean back, and you're going to have to get a hard yard or hard 2 yards. And again, Dave, these guys can attest to it. So it's something to keep an eye on. I think it's a reason to overreact and say Texas is going to go 8-4, or it wrecks the season. But obviously, fingers crossed, no more injuries, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on Blue and the rest of those guys to step up.
Absolutely.
Dave, why don't you go? Because if I have the hot take here, so I'm going to let this fester for a little
There
while.
we go.
6-6 prediction incoming.
I think you can win it. I think at the college level, you can win with. I think there's an elite level of running back at the college level, and there's like just a handful of those guys. Not even just a year.
Look at the SEC alone, Dave. There's not a lot of, if any of those guys.
No, I wouldn't say there's an elite back in the league this year. They're going into the season. I would agree with that. But usually, there's an elite rare class. Think you have a bunch of good guys. You can win with a bunch of those good guys. Hell, Gus Malzahn, I think, had 6 straight years with a 1,000-yard rusher, and none of those guys did anything in the NFL. Cam Petway, Kerryon Johnson had an all right career, got banged up. Cam Martin was a part of that. You can win with a lot of running backs. I will say this about CJ Baxter. I feel like he was a dude, an elite, rare dude that isn't in the same category. I mean, I would say he was probably one of the guys from an SEC standpoint I would put in the non-quarterback winning Heisman conversation. I don't think that was going to happen, but if you made me say a non-quarterback in the league, he'd be in that. But when I'm talking about the elite ones, I'm talking like Derrick Henry, Adrian Peterson, Cole was mentioned, we were talking off there, Reggie Bush, guys like that, Leonard Fournette, like dudes that would like take over games. I think CJ Baxter kind of had that in him a little bit. Now, I can't say, I think there's a lot of good running backs in college football. I think CJ Baxter had a chance this year. I didn't want to put him in it just yet. I think he could have been in that elite class of running backs in college football. And I think when you lose that kind of guy, that hurts you. Whereas like Reuben Owens, good running back, but I think there's a little bit more winnable plus in that A&M running back room with like Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss as well. So I think it's a much bigger loss, but loss for both teams, a much bigger loss for Texas, just because I think it's more of a compliment to what a player CJ Baxter is.
More than fair. Cole, is it ready?
I thought Jaden Blue was going to have a better season than CJ Baxter no matter what. So I actually think that right now, my prediction of him just going off this year is going to hit immediately because it kind of has to, because now CJ Baxter's not playing. But I think that CJ Baxter is a talented player because of his size and his physicality to be able to win in the trenches. And the one thing that has hindered Texas' success in the early stages of the Steve Sarkisian era is their inability to win on 3rd and short. This is where you would have had that for CJ Baxter. But when you're talking about home run speed, and you're talking about a dude that knows how to get to the outside and can turn on the jets and leave you in the dust, that's Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is a really, really good back. It's so interesting. We had this conversation about 2 years ago, and you thought that we would learn our mistakes with the Roschon Johnson incident. It was really fun to hear all about how, yes, Bijan Robinson is the best running back in college football, but if you had Roschon, it would have been fine. He would have started elsewhere. It's like, yeah, he would have started elsewhere, but you have a guy in front of him that still is better. That's kind of how I feel right now with the situation. It didn't matter that if you lost CJ Baxter for Jaden Blue or Jaden Blue for CJ Baxter, you would still feel really good about that running back room for the starter standpoint. The question comes to the depth, but I believe that when you have an offensive line, and I've said on record multiple times, I think Texas, even with the loss of Christian Jones, has the best offensive line in the SEC already because of what Kyle Flood has done to be able to build up the trenches and, more importantly, target right players to get them in the building, usually come in early and get in that workout regimen during the spring camp, be there for the 15 practices, and better their odds to start right away. I really feel like that Jaden Blue is just going to have to find a small little crease. He's going to have the offensive line that blocks for him. He will end up still having a great season. Texas will still have a great season. And ultimately, I truly do also believe when you look at Quinn Ewers, you may want to throw some money down. You really might. And if you do, it's not the worst call. If they are to use a running back, I am going to say this. I really would like to see Silas Bolden be used on some jet sweeps and find his way into the open field. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
That's a positive for them. It happened early. They can get creative in the run game. They're not scrambling week up to figure something out.
Bro, I remember when they brought in Keelan Robinson, and I thought that last year with him there last season, they severely underutilized him.
Absolutely.
I think that Silas Bolden can be better than what you saw with Keelan Robinson, and you're not going to see history repeat itself. They will find a way to get him on the field in some capacity.
I like Blue. They're going to need somebody else to step up, though.
Yeah, no, Red Zone woes hurt him last year. I'm curious how it affects him there with Baxter gone.
No, absolutely. Red zone's concerning. Third and short, 4th and short. I mean, obviously, a lot of people remember the 4 downs against Oklahoma. Now, to credit Cole and CJ's point, Quinn's legs are going to have to be, involved in those down and distances. There's going to be more instances where we rely on him. I'm not saying we are going to have a ton of designed runs for the guy because, I mean, he's QB1 and we need to protect him, and he can be one of the better ones in America. But I am a little deflated about the Christian Clark injury. I know that injuries happen. The last 2 channel or podcasts that I've ran, I loved Christian Clark. Huge fan of the guy. I even told Aggie Report, don't know if you know that gentleman. He came on the podcast. I was telling him during the last recruiting cycle that he was my favorite back in that class. And so I was really confident that, mid to late season, he would be a part of the offense, setting up for a potential playoff run, hopefully. But yeah, that injury really hurts me. But at the same time, Dave, I mean, there is no depth at the moment. Someone is going to have to step up. what worries me the most is when you're talking about Jaden Blue is like, how many times does this guy touch the football? He's going to be good out of the backfield. Are we giving it to him 15 times a game, including a few targets out of the backfield? I think we'll have to do more when you're looking at Michigan, Oklahoma, Georgia, and we're going to have to run the ball. Sark's offenses feature a bell cow, and it's he's creative. I know he'll find a way. Like you just said, he'll get wide receivers involved. There will be all different. We'll probably play sideline to sideline. But those like Chris mentioned, those downs against the big dogs when it's like, hey, we need a yard, we need 2 yards, and I mean you can't be. You got to have some substance. You got to be able to put your nose down and get a yard at times in college football if you want to be one of the better teams. And go look at Michigan and what they're doing. And Washington obviously wasn't a power team. I'm not knocking them because they beat my team twice in the last 2 seasons, but power works. Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, like you got to have it. And we do have the O-line, but I am curious to see what Sark does in those downs and distances in particular. And just natural after what we went through for a decade before Sark kind of came here. I'm a little bit quieter now as far as expectations, but I do expect us to have a very good team.
Let me ask you out of curiosity, have you seen the one message board comment surrounding a certain player to play running back this year?
Are you referencing Darian?
No, I'm referencing somebody that many people are potentially clamming for to pull a Roschon Johnson 2.0.
In Texas?
There's a comment on one message board that says, let's try Arch Manning at running back. And I wanted to run through a wall and smack that person upside.
I did see that. Okay.
Oh my God. I have never been more of an eye roll, just screw you, shut the hell up kind of moment.
Yeah, that's the thing where, even if you're trying to be funny, it's just like, be a lot damn funnier because, no one's going to take you seriously here, pal. But
to your point about, the 3rd and shorts, 4th and shorts, red zone, all that stuff. The elites, they don't run the ball all the time.
Of course.
But when they need to, they get that yard. That's it. So that's, when Georgia needs a yard, Michigan, they can get it. And my grandfather used to say, if you can't get 3 feet, you don't deserve to win. So it's a lot harder than it sounds when you say it like that. But it's
big difference when everyone knows what you're about to do.
But can you still line up and shove it down?
Look at the last drive of the SEC championship. Alabama just ran out the clock.
Shoved it down their throat. So
that's what Texas and Alabama last year. We bled off the last 7 minutes of that ball game, and that's not something that we're accustomed to seeing as a Longhorn fans. To have the offensive line or the backs, or just the receivers that scare you enough just to give you enough, that extra bit of space in the running game. We weren't used to seeing that. Definitely didn't expect to just, we ran the ball every play for 7 minutes against the Nick Saban defense. Not trying to be offensive, guys. We just weren't used to that. And, obviously now we have the line to do that. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. I am confident in expectations. So it just might look a little different than it could have, obviously if CJ was around. As far as Oklahoma and the SEC, obviously the schedule's tough, very, very tough. What are your expectations for Oklahoma in year one? You like Jackson Arnold. Obviously the defense has a lot of experience and talent. What are your thoughts on the Sooners?
So this is where, Ghost, you're going to get some differing of opinions, I believe.
Okay.
So I'll go first. I've learned a lot since we launched in late December about all the different fan bases, Texas and Oklahoma included. The thing I've learned about Oklahoma fans, probably more than any, is picking their football team to go 6-6 or 7-5 is like you may as well talk poorly about their family. It's an insult. It's an insult.
Absolutely.
Even when you're trying to be, and they've been great. I want to say that, but I think Oklahoma's going to struggle. Listen. Oklahoma's offensive line may be the most important position group in the conference because if they come together, if I give Oklahoma Texas's offensive line right now, that team might make the playoff. But they don't have that, right? It's 5 brand new starters. It's a line held together by Scotch tape. Jackson Arnold, super high ceiling. Where is the floor? We don't know, right? Probably going to be pretty inconsistent. Might turn the ball over here and there. That defense is elite. Schedule's a gauntlet. right? I don't know. The schedule was crafted by Steve Sarkisian himself. I mean, it's a gauntlet. Right?
I think it was Chris Del Conte, if you ask the
Chris
Sooners.
Del Conte scheme. Him and Jim Schlossnagle walking hand in hand. Why don't we throw in the Pete Foreman too while we're at it? No, yeah. So I've got Oklahoma. I'm on record with 7-5. I think they're going to jump up and get somebody because I think Oklahoma is going to be a volatile team. I think they've got the ceiling where, like, if they have a good game up front or match up well up front, I got them beating Tennessee in their SEC opener. But we talk about injuries. And we hate to think about them, but, like, you have to factor in injury. It's why we talk about depth, because we know guys are going to get banged up. We know guys are going to get nicked up. The odds of Oklahoma going through this season and their offensive line not suffering a single blow, it's very low. So I'll just say this, Ghost. I've watched enough SEC football, especially my background with South Carolina. I've watched a lot of SEC football with questions at quarterback and a very questionable offensive line. And I'm here to tell you, Ghost, I've seen the movie, and the ship sinks every time. And I'm not trying to compare Oklahoma and South Carolina football. I'm not doing that. But what I am saying is that you may not get exposed every game. You may jump up and bite somebody. But over the course of a 12-game season, there's no hiding in this league, and not when you have the schedule like they have. And so I think you're going to see Oklahoma at times get exposed. I think you're going to see them get pushed around. I think you're going to see them at times – maybe it all clicks one game and we're like, that looks like it could be a college football playoff team. I just don't think the roster's quite there yet. And again, with that schedule, I mean, nobody wants to hear, man, you're the best 7-5 team in college football. But, Oklahoma, they go 7-5 or 8-4, and you're like, that was a damn good football team with the questions they had. That's right where I've got them at that 7-5 mark.
Yeah. I mean, I say it on a lot of shows I'm on. I think I've said it on some of our stuff. Oklahoma is going to have – they're not going to compete for the league. I don't think – I have them 8-4 if we're going to go on what we said we have them record-wise. I think they're 8-4. They're on so many contenders scheduled, they're going to have a say in who is in Atlanta, who wins the SEC championship. I mean, they play Texas. They play Ole Miss. They play Tennessee. They play Missouri. They play Alabama. They play LSU, if you want to call LSU a contender. They play everybody. It's truly probably a contender outside of Georgia. So they're going to have a say. Again, I like their defense at all three levels. Yeah, the major question mark is going to be, or concern will be at quarterback in the offensive line. Jackson Arnold a little bit. It'll be – I mean, you saw some of the notes from their scrimmage. Had a couple picks. Sounds like the defense really got after him, which makes sense. They got a lot of people back on defense. And you're breaking that in. But the turnovers can't happen. Me and Cole were doing our preview for their game against who was it? Cole Temple to open up week 1. Yeah, Temple. And he asked me what I wanted to see. It's like, let's see the operation. Let's don't see turnovers. Jackson Arnold, I don't think this year he could certainly go out and be a guy throws for 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions one game, and then come out. The thing he can't do though is go be like a 3-for-1 guy, 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, just have a bad game where he almost loses in the game and he's kind of just a gunslinger, kind of all over the place at times. He's got to settle in, get comfortable, because I do think they have some weapons on the outside. Defense is going to keep them in a ton of games, like Chris was saying, if they can stay healthy. But I think they are going to have a say in the league, certainly. I mean, I think we're going to find out a lot about them in the first 2 weeks. Their first game against Tennessee, the SEC opener, Heupel, the kids coming back to town. That'll be an emotional one. And then they have to go to Jordan-Hare the next week. That's going to be tough because I think Auburn will probably be undefeated in that game. I mean, they don't leave Auburn for the first 5 weeks. Their toughest game going into that would be Arkansas the week before or Cal. They should be undefeated. Auburn undefeated is a tough home game. Or a tough road game, especially after you play your first home SEC game, first conference opener in this league against your former quarterback who won a national championship. I think there'll be some emotion level there. I'm fired up for the Brent Venables, Steve Sarkisian future rivalry, honestly. I think that's going to be an awesome Red River shootout consistently. The defensive mastermind against the offensive mastermind always. And I think Oklahoma's going to kind of be that heel in Texas. I mean, going into the year, I had Texas 11-1. I had their 1 loss, losing to Oklahoma again, back-to-back losses to Oklahoma. So I think Oklahoma long-term, I like the new DC, Zach Alley. It's similar to Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann type mentor relationship. I like them long-term. I'm with Chris, though. The schedule, a lot of people talk about Florida's schedule, and I think a lot of that's because they play the Big 3 at a conference, and Oklahoma doesn't have it. Oklahoma's conference schedule, I think, is tougher than Florida's.
It is tougher. I think it's tough.
Conference schedule just alone, not total schedule. But yeah, I'm with Chris. I think they're probably in that 7-5, 8-4 because depth. I mean, you heard Kirby Smart say it today. It's the worst their depth's ever been. But that's everybody. Everybody is thin in the offensive line and in the secondary right now because you play so many numbers there. But yeah, I like Oklahoma. Oklahoma long term will be fine. This year, I think it's going to be a 7-5, 8-4. They won't compete, but they're going to have a say because they're on so many contender schedule.
Dave picking the Texas loss to OU. I hope you enjoyed your time on the show, Dave. Good night. Hey, but I didn't tell you who I had Texas losing to, so I won't mention it. I won't say it out loud.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and bring that one up, buddy?
Not
I
on
already
me.
know who that one is. I remember.
I had.
I bookmarked it. Okay. No.
Yeah, I had Gig'em getting the upset in the final game. 11-1 with a loss to Gig'em, and that was you, Ghost, that posed the question: would you take it or would you roll the dice? And many said roll the dice.
Roll the dice.
Give me 11-1. I'm not sitting here and pretending like I didn't just watch a lot of 5, 6, 7 win seasons. We lose in College Station, but win 11 games. Just tell me who the heck we're playing in the SEC title game, hopefully. But
roll the dice.
All right.
Cole's about to tell you you're about to meet Oklahoma twice this year. Once in Dallas, once in Atlanta.
I think they're a 9-3 team, if not better. I do.
Oh, you love OU, Cole.
I don't know why, but I'm not going to doubt Bill Beaton.
Ghost, OU and Mizzou. OU and Mizzou, those are Cole's babies.
They pay the bills.
They are literally paying bills right now. I honestly think that when you look at the offensive line, yes, it's a mess, but Bill Beaton must have had worse. And he's had very bad offensive lines in the past. He's been able to work with and transform overnight and turn them into really stable units. And I think that going up against a defense that, in my opinion, is top 15 nationally, not top 15 in the SEC, just overall really well put together. They're a great team. I love their wide receiver room. It's one of the most slept-on wide receiver rooms in all of college football. Andrew Anthony, Jariq Folk. You bring on over Deion Burks, who, if you haven't bought stock in, I hate to break it to you, but it's at an all-time low at this point because if it was at one point really, really promising. You have Nick Anderson. I saw that relationship with Nick Anderson in the Alamo Bowl. Like, I don't ever believe in bowl syndrome. It is the dumbest way to judge a quarterback, which is why I have to continuously talk Tennessee fans off the ledge on the Nico hype. But it's the same thing when I got to do it to draw people from Oklahoma from jumping off the ledge on the Jackson Arnold Expressway because they're all off on him because of the interceptions in that game. He had a good relationship with Nick Anderson, and Anderson was a big reason why the Red River went down to the wire. I literally watched as that game went back and forth, and it was a largely due to number 4 being always open for Dylan Gabriel. I know there's going to be a lot of questions with OU, but what I also know is that 2 things. Number 1, if defense keeps you in games and you find a way to get those wins against opponents early on, momentum carries a lot of weight. I personally think that they're going to beat Tennessee. I think they're going to beat Auburn. And I think that Auburn, the big thing for them is that you may feel really good about your roster. How do you feel about your quarterback? Would you trade out Peyton Thorne for Jackson Arnold with that young core and immediately think that you were going to be a better squad? If that's the case, then why am I not going to think with this defense for Oklahoma, they can't march into Jordan Hare and be able to beat up on the Tigers, especially when you may be Hugh Freeze holding out hope that this is the game where Thorne turns it on. And by the 4th quarter, you bench him. You go ahead and say, we're starting fresh next week. But at that point, it's too late. It's already too late and you get the win. And then that win carries on over into the bye week. And then the bye week sets up for Red River. And what if you don't drop that monumental game against Texas, and then you get to go play against South Carolina? And then you have the rest of the season to be able to start losing some games. There's a scenario where, yeah, I think that Oklahoma is a 9+ win team. And if they're 10-2, you know, not every 10-win team is going to be treated the same. But with that schedule, 2 losses, I mean, if you're a 2-loss team with that schedule, you might as well
get in 9-3 with that.
But I guarantee, but 2 losses with that schedule,
they're in 100%.
You're in.
I mean, that would be.
They're 10-2. They probably beat Ole Miss on the road too. They probably get a big win late in the year.
But what if they don't? What if that's the sleeper game where they lose to Ole Miss, but they beat Bama?
There's probably a good chance they're underdogs that game.
But what if they beat Bama at home? And again, that's a game where if I'm Bama, I'm actually sitting there kind of worried because you got to remember last year. Remember when we saw Auburn lose to New Mexico State? And I'm not comparing these two to be, transparent. What I'm saying is everyone in Tuscaloosa knew, shit, they're looking ahead to Bama. Like, nobody was sitting there like, oh, they were lost to Jacksonville State because they were a bad team. It's like, no, they didn't even pay attention to Jacksonville State because their mindset was so focused on winning the Iron Bowl against Alabama. They just thought they were going to be fine. What if that's Alabama's thought process with the brand new head coach setting a standard in Tuscaloosa? They haven't lost in Tuscaloosa since 2010 to the Tigers. They haven't. And so now this is the first time to where you feel like that maybe it's going to be that case. So what if Alabama drops into Oklahoma? And that's
you could say in that scenario, though, Oklahoma could be looking ahead to LSU. So everybody plays another conference.
Right. But to me, when you look at Venables, he's been there for at least several years to where I don't know if you'll have that type of mentality to where you're looking ahead. And that's your last home game. That is your last game at home to where you can potentially lose.
I don't think anybody's arguing. If they're 10-2, they're in.
No, absolutely. What I think most people are arguing is that could they get 10-2? And I honestly don't know if they will, but I think if they're 9-3, I truly think that you're going to see them be right alongside everyone else in that running. And Dave kind of said it best. They are going to control a lot of destinies for not just making it to Atlanta, but I think also the college football playoff. That's one of those few teams that may have such a monumental say, even if they're not in the dozen dance.
No, I agree. I mean, Oklahoma, if they went 9-3 versus that schedule, I would almost make a case for them to make the playoffs. I think a lot of things have to go their way. They would play in a ton of close ball games. I did say on my last episode that I am guaranteeing an Auburn loss. So, Mr. Cole, we are up at it on that side. I've got Auburn winning that game.
Let Jackson Arnold throw a couple picks at Jordan Hare and see what happens.
Oh, no, but apparently it's going to
get out of there alive.
Apparently it's going to get really quiet at Tiger Stadium when he throws in a touchdown. I mean, he already said that.
Have they announced a start time for that game?
No, it's got to be.
It's got to be 2:30 or 9. Yeah,
it's got to be.
Hey, the same reasons that Dave said.
Hey, the plan is for SEC Unfiltered, or at least me, to be at that game. 3:30. It's in the 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern slot. So
let's go.
It'll be one of those kind of afternoonish kicks, maybe or night, fourth quarter.
Under the night, yeah. I like Auburn in that game. I think they're going to make a very big deal out of, I mean, rightfully so. The home opener with Tennessee, the first SEC game. Hype will come to town. Just parodying Dave.
That one too.
Parodying you, Dave, at this point. But I think that they'll go into Auburn, an undefeated Auburn, and struggle down there. I'm really curious. I mean, the Sooners, if they go in early and, like, let's say, y'all are confident with Oklahoma versus Tennessee in their first SEC game. Let's say the Sooners drop that one. You have the offensive line. There's going to be a lot of question marks. If they struggle early and they drop Tennessee and Auburn, then you still have to play Texas on the flip side of what Cole is playing or saying, it could get ugly really, really, really fast. And in the transfer portal era, I'm not saying Venables has issues with his team's psyche or he's lost his team. I worry about it if I were a Sooner, because there is no guarantee that beating ball gets the offensive line to where they need to be. And there's no guarantee that Jackson Arnold isn't turnover prone. But at the same time, they're great coaches. They know what they're doing. I'm not guaranteeing that they don't. And so I am very up in the air on Oklahoma. I don't think that I can see a 9-3 Cole. I just think the Longhorn in me won't allow that. I would love to see more of the 7-5 with over there with Mr. Chris and Dave, but time will tell, man.
We're all 7-5, 8-4, 9-3 across the board.
Well, I tell you this. Red River is very important because, I mean, listen, I'm kind of newish, admittedly. Like that isn't a game I made appointment TV viewing every year. Just being transparent as a SEC man, born and raised.
Mistake, my dude.
I know we can't relate there, Cole, but I would see it on, but like, that's a cool game. So, like, for example, Ghost, I've heard enough to know that this is not, or that this is true, but like, I was always like, neutral site, that doesn't do it for me. I don't want to go, I don't want to go to the neutral site. And people are like, they're like, no, you have no. I mean, they're like, it's
I like you can feel it on TV
you've ever experienced. Like, it's the greatest thing ever. So, like, I'm not as familiar. But I just feel like for establishing yourself in the SEC, Texas has got to beat Oklahoma, man. I mean, it just – because OU has dominated Texas in that rivalry since like 2000. It's not going to be a good look if you're year one of in the SEC and you've gotten all this hype. And no matter what your records are at this point, you let OU beat you again, it's just like, Well,
new conference, same shit, man. That's exactly what they're going to scream.
New conference, same thing. It is same thing. It's the same thing, same story. So,
Gus, let me ask you, because if you have a better sense and gauge on this from the fans out in Austin, you hear the way that people talk about in Columbus, where Ryan Day has 9 losses. 9 losses. He's been to a national championship. He's been to a college football playoff, but he has 3 losses in a row to Michigan. And there is speculation that he doesn't win a 4th. He loses a 4th. Doesn't matter what he does. He's going to be shown the door. If Sark loses, he's 1-3 against Oklahoma. Is that changing the narrative around Sark's name for the fan base?
If Sark drops another game, obviously if he drops this particular game, like there's going to be noise about Sarkisian having an Oklahoma problem. I'm not saying that that's going to be completely justified, but I mean, I would understand why that noise would be there, and it certainly would be.
That's my season prediction. I have the Oklahoma 11-1, 1 loss to Oklahoma.
All right, how do we get him out of here? But
see, I shut up. That's why I do this thing.
I can take it, man. I love it. And as we talked about, I want to talk about all of it. And
Dave said, not only am I going to predict it, I'm going to rub your nose in it.
I'm going to shove your face in it like a bully.
I think I just got a DM from Dave with his schedule and the predictions on it, but I'll check it later just to confirm. But you have to win that game this year if you're Texas. I fully agree with you guys. Growing up, I watched Texas drop 5 or 6 straight against Oklahoma from 2000 to 2004. And I just remember every year the narrative around that game just being Mac can't beat Oklahoma. Mac can't beat Oklahoma. And I was a child, and I'm very passionate about football as a child, but you could see the pressure that it created around Mac and around the program. And now I don't think Sark's that same way. I think he handles it a little bit differently. You go to the 2021 game, we blow a massive lead, a 28-7 first quarter lead. We don't stop anybody. The Caleb Williams games, everything that went wrong in the second half could have gone wrong. And, obviously he has a great 2022, but we played an Oklahoma team with no pulse. They didn't have Dylan Gabriel, and their spirit broke pretty early in that game. And so that's not your standard, Red River game. So if he does drop to 1-3, and with the way the game played out last year with just some of the turnovers and everything, there will be some noise. I'm not saying it's going to be from me. I'll quietly, wonder and worry about it, lose sleep over it. But definitely there will be some questions, man. I'm not, as far as his overall trajectory with the program, I mean, you've got to beat Oklahoma to get to where you want to be. The great Texas coaches. Go ahead.
What was Matt Brown's overall record against OU?
Oh man, let's go back here. It's going to take just
4-7.
Does he only have 4 wins? So he beat them in '98. He beat them in 2005. He beat them in 2006. He beat them in 2008. Beat them in 2009. He should have 6 wins.
I say, okay, maybe it's 6 and 8.
He was at Texas a while. Let's see.
He got there in 90. Did he get there in 98 or 99?
Yeah, I think 98 was his
98.
So I'm from Mississippi. You could even feel Mac Brown just can't beat home. I remember when I was in middle school, high school, you could feel that. Besides, obviously, 05 of Vince Young, but
it all flipped when Bob Stoops got to Oklahoma, and starting in 2000. I mean, Oklahoma just showed up with such a different attitude in those games. I mean, you're talking about 63-14. This is a Texas channel. Why am I doing this? 63-14 in 2000.
Let's relive all the OU losses.
Yeah.
Let's bring up pain.
I'm trying to compare them from the Sark to Mac. I'm trying to, look at the games individually and just compare a little bit. And, we're showing up and getting pile driven by Oklahoma in 2000, 63-14. 2001, we lead them for a lot of that. 2002, 2001 was a 14-3. We scored 3 points in that game. We lose 14-3 against an awesome OU defense. 2002, it felt good. We had a lead at halftime. I think we blew an 11-point lead. And then 2004, Vince Young, Chance Mock, we get beat 65-13. Love those guys, but I mean, that was so hard to watch. 65-13. And it was never a contest, and then you go back and look at like 2010, 2011, there were more of those games. And so with the Sarkisian team, I don't see him showing up into the Cotton Bowl and just letting Oklahoma just step on our throats from the jump. No. And that was the thing with Mac. And now you still have to win the games, man. I absolutely agree with you. But the problem was a little different than what Mac had, because it was just like, there's 7 minutes off the clock and we've got holes in our chest. They're just running through us. And so that's a huge game. No doubt. You guys are right. Texas has to win inside the Cotton Bowl this year.
I tell you this, Ghost, talking to those Oklahoma folks. Again, I've We've had folks on the airwaves. We've gone on the ref, talked to them. And I even mentioned this to them. I said, this is a compliment, by the way. There's not going to be a fan base more insufferable if their team is good this year than Oklahoma. Because when I talk to them, I talk to the guys that cover them. Like when you talk to them, I commend them for keeping it all together and keeping it buttoned up. But you can just tell they're so pissed. Like they are just ready.
Could you imagine an Oklahoma-Tennessee SEC championship and the social media warfare?
Oklahoma Texas in the SEC title?
No, I said if it was Oklahoma-Tennessee, the social media warfare.
Oh, yeah, those two. The social media warfare that week alone
is going to be amazing.
Oh, it's going to – dude, incredible. We're going to hammer it. We're going to hammer it. Yeah.
It's going to be a scene, man. I'm jealous. I plan on going to several of the big home games, a couple of, the Aggie game at least. But there's so many games at SEC that I just want to get out to. Go ahead.
Are we shipping you to Red River, Cole?
If you want, I'll do it. I will gladly go. I will be there on a Friday night.
He'll ride in on the schooner.
I will gladly ride in on the schooner. I will ride it on Bevo if they allow me to. I will.
Joe's is like, dude, get these guys off.
No, I need to see this. I'm ready to be a part of this. That seems like a very Red River type
event. I will gladly be riding on him like a mountain, coming down the mountaintop like a lightning bolt, ready to go ahead and attack while wearing a Sooner shirt and just going, "Who am I picking? You decide, people," and then just let them go ahead and decide for me. Chris,
couldn't you see Cole in a shirt this fall with the MIZ, leave out one Z, just put OU and crimson?
Oh, Lord.
Teams.
Again, okay, so I've already told Chris this before, and Dave, now you get to hear this story too. I have said if you want to send me to any game, I will gladly go. There is one I will not do. It is Mizzou and it is Oklahoma because they're going to make me pick a side right then and there, and then I'm going to lose fans immediately. If I go to that game, they're going to break me in. I'm going to be the tug of war stick, and they're going to be pulling my arms. They're going to be like, "You must choose one of us. One of us." I'm like, okay, I'm not to the Google gobble stuff yet. No, we got to calm down.
Very underrated bad blood game, that one for sure.
Absolutely.
What's so funny is that you hear the Oklahoma fans, they don't think that Mizzou is a rival. I think you hear the Mizzou.
Tyler McComas, and then they swear that they're like, it's a fake rivalry. It's made up. It's not a rivalry.
Well, you know what's so funny is that Arkansas
UCF
and
UConn made that one.
What?
Y'all remember that one when UCF and UConn created that rivalry randomly?
Oh, yeah.
Rivalry, yeah.
That's
cool. Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Nothing better than going to play up in the heartland of Hartford. That is exactly beating it down to the chest. That's exactly what we all agree upon.
The real home of college football.
Yep, Hartford, Connecticut. We all know it.
I mean, I don't want to go forever about Texas and Oklahoma, but we talked a little before we started airing while we were waiting on our friend Chris, and we talked Red River. Where does that game, in your opinion, stand as far as rivalries go in the SEC Texas channel? But you can hurt our feelings. Some of y'all you haven't experienced it. It's okay. But where do you have it?
Yeah, and I haven't experienced it in person. So for me, I'll put it top 3. I'll put it 2, but I'm not putting it ahead of the Iron Bowl.
All right, I top 3. I was about to say at least give it. Okay,
it looks. I'll say this, and
I'll put it 2. But Cole made a good point about this. Iron Bowl in Jordan Hare versus Iron Bowl in Bryant Denny is a different game.
It is a different game.
But
yeah, it doesn't have the same energy.
But still, I got to go Iron Bowl 1. I have to.
I'm with Chris. I've never been to the Red River Shootout, so I need to go to that. So I can't give a full assessment. But I've been to Georgia, Florida, and I guess that's a good comparison, 50-50 neutral split. That was a little underwhelming. It almost did feel like a little more of a part. I feel like you feel the Oklahoma-Texas game like on TV. I don't get that Georgia, Florida feel, or even being there on the sideline when I was at Georgia that year we played them. I didn't get that, wow. This is it, guys. Kind of like Kevin Costner and Field of Dreams. I went like, we made it here. It's just got a cool setting. I mean, split orange and blue, red and black. I mean, cool. But it does feel like the Texas Oklahoma one's bigger than that. I mean, I just can't give a proper rating. I haven't been to it in person.
That's fair.
And that's probably
I'd probably say atmosphere-wise, it probably is cooler from top to bottom than an Iron Bowl.
That's probably what I should have done, Cole or Ghost, but I wanted to give you a rating. But I will say this is all lining up before Cole answers. This is lining up for SEC Unfiltered to take a group trip to Red River at some point. This needs to happen.
Please.
Danger that one.
Cole?
And then when they ask us who we're citing, picking, whatever, we say
good game.
We're sitting down the middle.
Yeah, that doesn't work though. That's the problem, which is why
in the aisle. We're sitting in the aisle.
We're walking around the terrace nonstop, wearing not neutral colors because that's the only way it's going to work. It's 1B because of you gotta give credit to 1A being Iron Bowl. They're both number one for different reasons. Let me try and set the scene as somebody that grew up in Texas, has been to an actual Red River, has been to the Texas State Fair. It's a day. It's an event. It's not a game. The big thing about what makes Red River so special is that it is an event. You're up at 5 a.m. You're getting into the parking lot. You're starting your tailgate. You smell the breakfast tacos. You're starting to get a little bit of that barbecue from the night before. Maybe you're nursing a little bit of a hangover. You take a shot of the hair of the dog and you start getting ready for an 11 a.m. kick, which again, I still find is really ridiculous that we're moving it from it now going to 2:30 because that's going to do a lot of, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in the chat, hydrate because if you're going to need it this year because it's a 2:30 kick.
I've already been to that game. That kind of bothers me.
It's a 2:30 kick. And that's another thing. Is that
it's 11 a.m.
But you march on in and you're feeling confident because if you've had a couple drinks, you've been able to pop the bubbly, you've celebrated in the morning, you've already seen the game day atmosphere, you've been able to hear what people are going through when it comes to the game day predictions. You're starting to pile on in. It's about 90 minutes before, and you see the opponent, whether it's the Crimson and Cream or you see the Burnt Orange, and you just look at each other like it is the Hatfields and the McCoys. It is straight up middle bird. Don't even talk to me. Don't speak to me. There are people who are unfortunately married into the rivalry. If you are a member of the clan that belongs up in Norman, Oklahoma, for 3 hours, you are divorced from your husband or wife. That is just the rules of the game. There is no middle ground. You pile on in. You buy your tickets with your OU faithful. You buy your tickets with your Longhorn pride. You go ahead. These locker rooms. What's so awesome about the Cotton Bowl is the locker rooms are right next to each other. So you hear the ruckus as you're getting ready to walk onto the field. You can hear the footsteps as one is entering. And you come on out, and all you hear are the boos cascading in, whatever side you're on, because it's 50-50 down the middle. It's half orange and white. It's half crimson and cream. And then for 60 minutes, you get to play smash mouth nonstop football. And 30 of them, you're playing behind enemy lines. You're playing in front of the enemy because that's the way it is. And there's something special about it. There's something special about just having that type of game day atmosphere where you're walking on out. You feel completely like either so elated that was a game that you found a way to win, or you're heartbroken and you just want to go start drinking in the Texas State Fair or grab a corn dog because if you're just so miserable that you lost. So I can't say that it is not in the top two when it really could be number one, but also you think about the history of the Iron Bowl, like just the Iron Bowl in general, especially at Jordan-Hare. There's so many moments. I mean, people want to talk about the kick six. I get it. But there's also the 4-time overtime game where Bryce Young connects at the back of the end zone against a Brian Harsin team. Jared Stidham found a way to take this game down to the wire. Bo Nix, when he was ran out of town.
Stidham won.
Yeah, Stidham won. Bo Nix won. Like, we're talking about what this game is, where it goes down. Missed field goals. A last-second attempt to be able to go call a timeout, and you don't get it on time, so they kick the field goal and they win. There's something about that game being at Jordan-Hare that is just special. I have said multiple times, that I believe that there is a shaman man buried underneath Jordan-Hare and that his bones have seeped through the soil. And when big games happen, his voodoo magic comes on out and it plays a major role in the game. Because that's the only way that you see it happen that way all the time. That's it. That like to me, when the game is played at Jordan-Hare Stadium, it is the number one rivalry in all of college sports. When the game is played at Bryant-Denny Stadium, which I guess is Nick Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium now, I'm still not really entirely for that. You can make a case that Red River is the best rivalry in all of college football.
Does Red River have a Harvey Updike?
There's a story out there that I'm not going to share it on air. I will send you a link to the clip. I would say that it's a little above what Mr. Updike did. It was pretty serious. Now, I mean, I'm on this side of the rivalry, but I'll send it to you. You let me know what you think. I definitely think that obviously it's dependent upon where you are, what you've experienced. Texas OU is a fantastic game. Auburn, Alabama is a fantastic game. I don't think that Georgia, Florida comes anywhere close to Texas, Oklahoma, or obviously Auburn, Alabama. Nowhere close.
I agree.
Not in the same just stratosphere. You walk into the Cotton Bowl, you walk into where are they playing in Jacksonville?
TII Bank Stadium or Bank Stadium or whatever it is now.
Thank you. Different worlds.
We need to everybody, not just Dave, but we need Georgia, Florida to be great again. That has not been a rivalry.
Well, the problem is Florida's been so down since.
Well, it hasn't.
They won that game.
Yeah, it hasn't been a rivalry since Kirby Smart.
Kirby's lost twice to Florida. That was it.
And making your point, Dave, earlier, you mentioned the kind of the energy there, and I mean, like, I felt something in the Tebow and Noshawn when Georgia had let the entire sideline celebrate. You know, that was a moment. And then
they both haven't been really good
much from that.
Yeah, the 2020 year, 1 year the Florida won the East. That was COVID. Remember, nobody was there. I mean, nobody was really there. So they both haven't really been good since you said the 08, the 07, 08 matchups.
Right. And I mean,
Brandon Spikes and them.
Well, like the best rivalry, I mean, like another rivalry that completely flies under the radar is third Saturday in October for Tennessee and Alabama.
Alabama dominated the series.
He's lost once. He lost one time in 7.
That's a streaky rivalry. When I was a kid, Tennessee won like 8 straight years between.
Yeah. And again,
Martin, Casey Clausen. It's a streaky. And then Bama. I mean, Bama won Saban's first year. That was the big upset in that series.
Yeah.
Tennessee was like top 10 when Bama won.
Was that Mount Cody? Was that Mount Cody?
No, that was Eric Ames was the quarterback at Tennessee. Yeah. It was Saban's first year. So that was 09 was
watching that. Go ahead, Cole.
What's so interesting is that you'll hear from Alabama fans that don't think that Tennessee is a true rival, and they'll say that the better game for them is LSU. And I'm like, yeah, it's a better game.
That's got to be some new school.
Like that's what I'm saying. It's new school kids. It's a better game, but the rivalry still stands. It's like when you hear these people at Texas A&M and Texas go, "Oh, well, that's not really a big rivalry." It's like, no. Young whippersnappers, you need to sit down and listen to your elders on this one. There have been brawls over that game. You are going to experience why we were so happy to find out this game's coming back.
I feel like the league tried to force that A&M LSU series, and it just never. I mean, I was at the game the 7 overtime Joe Burrow's last loss. That kind of set Orgeron. I remember Jimbo Fisher's nephew and
getting in the fight right after.
Yeah, like Ed refused to shake his head. You thought it may go that point, but that just never really took off. That was never. I think A&M won only 2 or 3 times.
I personally think that Texas and LSU plays out to be a fantastic series and rivalry that'll develop up. Not just football, but you look at baseball too. 2 of the premier programs, and I think that Texas and LSU have somewhat of a mutual respect for each other's fan bases. When LSU came to town in 2019, the best day of tailgating, hanging out at DKR that we've ever had. I mean, it felt SEC, even though we weren't in the SEC. And I'm ready for that one. There's a couple, I guess rivalries I wish, that we could kind of develop, but LSU would probably be number 1 for me outside of the big 3 with Oklahoma, A&M, and Arkansas, which I'm very excited to get the Arkansas game back. I don't think that they'll be as competitive as, that rivalry probably wishes it were, or they were, but in due time, we'll see. Ask a question for you guys. I asked everybody this come on regarding SEC football, and I'm getting a lot of the same answers, but I'm curious about you gentlemen. Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. Would y'all agree that's tier 1, arguably, of contenders?
For this year?
For this year, of course.
Yeah. I think Missouri's schedule is so easy to where it's hard not to give them that shot. That's my thing.
Okay, fair enough.
This isn't a power rating type deal. This is like
no.
The roster. This is who I think has the best chance tier-wise to get to Atlanta to be one of those 2 teams in that situation.
I was going to ask if you think there was anyone from the teams that you would put in your second tier that you think could hop up into tier 1, surprise somebody, have like a Missouri from last season. I know a lot of people thought that they would have a big year. Obviously, they won 11 football games. But is there anyone from the next tier of teams that you see take a Missouri, Tennessee, any of those guys can? I don't know if y'all have Kentucky as high as I do. I'm very high on Kentucky next year. But that second tier, is there anyone that jumps out for you? You doesn't even have to be specific to team. If you want to talk about coaches that you just trust or players that you think make a difference in the conference.
I'd go Tennessee.
Yeah, I'd say Tennessee.
I can't hardly say his last name, but I'm a believer in him. So
I go LSU. I think LSU's defense, as bad as people want to make it out to be, I think that if you were willing to take away 10 points from that scoring offense from a season ago, that would allow you to take 10 points off of that defense that you gave up a season ago. You take away 100 passing yards per game. You take away 100 passing yards you allowed per game. You're right there in the same conversation about being a 10-win team. With that roster, with that resume, with what they would have with the branding, they 100% would be a college football playoff team.
Friendly schedule too, and they're really excited about Blake Baker right now. Again, it's fall camp, so it's take it all with a grain of salt. But the same way we're getting these camp reports about Jackson Arnold, the camp reports out of Baton Rouge are that defense is flying around. Harold Perkins looks like an All-American again. So and again, they got a schedule conducive to a big year. So I think Cole definitely onto something with that.
Ghostin, you know this as well as I do. Before he was anything, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were 3-star talents. Yes, I mean, neither one was known for being these elite, all Big 12, All-American type caliber players. They weren't. Who fixed that?
Yeah, Cole, but Jacoby and Guillory is not.
I'm not saying he is. What I'm saying is
You're insinuating it.
What about David? Who fixed that?
From Wisconsin, Dave? What about
David? Steel Pace is going to do wonders down there. Who fixed that? Who fixed that, David?
There wasn't a fix. I don't think there was ever anything.
Who helped Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat reach their full potential? What was his name?
Yeah, Bo Davis. But
where is he now?
Yeah, he's at LSU.
I'll see myself out. Have a good night, ladies.
You're comparing two different players to Jacoby Guillory's been in the program for 4 years at this point. In a school like LSU, that doesn't happen. You don't sit around there unless just the whole run. I mean, Jordan Jefferson would be the second best player on their defense right now. So I don't think they compete. I don't think they win the SEC this year. I don't think
they win either. But if the question was who do you raise up, I think it's LSU.
No, I don't think that's fair to compare Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat to Jacoby.
What I'm saying is that if I get the best version of Jordan Jefferson and of Geo Pace and of
Jordan Jefferson's not on the team anymore. He's gone.
My bad, not him. Geo Pace and who's the guy, the freshman?
Jacoby and Guillory, and they got Don McGill.
Yeah, that Don McGill. If you get that type of play, and I'm not even saying.
But a true freshman. Who's the last true freshman to come in on the interior of the defensive line of the SEC and make a I was at all when Derek Brown was there. Derek Brown was not a good football player as freshman.
No, Jalen Carter, probably.
Yeah, but he wasn't. What LSU would need this year. Jalen Carter was not so.
You're talking about making a big difference for that defense to make a big jump.
If you're talking about making a big difference, maybe it was DeMarvin Leal, and even then, he wasn't even making that big of a difference.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not wrong.
You're not getting the snap. You're not getting enough snaps.
No, and if you're getting that much run, there's an issue on your defensive line.
Absolutely.
Freshmen get that much run.
But personally, it's LSU, and I've doubted them so many times in the past. Mostly I've doubted Brian Kelly, and he's always been able to say, "Cole, come back to reality. Like we're getting 10 wins." So why am I going to doubt that?
Again,
why am I going to doubt 9+ wins?
To back up what Cole's saying, the only thing I'd say to you, Dave, because you and I have talked about this, I agree with you. Of that group of Mizzou, Tennessee, LSU, I'd put Tennessee, then I'd put Mizzou, then I'd put LSU.
Yeah,
the LSU schedule. I mean,
they have to win that USC.
Favorable for a contender.
I think they got to feel pretty good about that.
The USC game is a must. I mean, that's
absolutely a must.
But you guys are saying the USC game is a must. I've already made this clear. Chris has made a video on it. Dave has talked about this. We all are in agreement for Tennessee. The must-win game is Florida.
Yeah,
it's Florida this year. So it's like,
yeah, I mean that'd be a bad loss in year 4 to them at home. Yeah,
that it's the same thing. If you're Brian Kelly and you lose yet another home opener it's every year for the first since 2019. I mean 2020.
You have 5 straight going back.
Yeah,
to COVID year.
It's the same type of argument you can make for Josh Heupel when it comes to Tennessee versus Florida. You're a better roster. You like the names you brought in via the portal. You like your recruiting class. They may have one of the best offensive lines. They may have the best defensive line in the country. And if you're losing that game, then I can make the same argument right there, which is why I think Tennessee, to me, the way that Chris has his rankings where it's it's Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, right?
Yes.
Tennessee has the highest ceiling. I think the lowest floor is LSU. And then the middle ground is somewhere in between is Mizzou, where I think Mizzou's schedule's so easy. Yeah. Their offense is going to be fine. Their defense will be sound. They may not get that monumental win, but they'll still get to 9-3.
What are we saying about Mizzou if they have Oklahoma's schedule? I think we all kind of think they're 7-5, 8-4.
I'd say 8-4. But would you but flip it? What if Oklahoma had Mizzou's schedule?
For sure. Yeah, I would think
9-3 or 10-2
is realistic. Yeah.
And the difference is that this is where we've had these arguments before. I personally think that there could be 7, 10 win teams in the SEC this year. You're leaving 2 out of the college football playoff. You can't put 7 in.
Right.
And ratings are going to play a factor.
The max.
But ratings are going to play a factor too, to where, and I've said this, and I don't know if I pitched this idea yet to you guys, but I still believe that 15 of getting in for the SEC will be determined by Clemson's record, by Penn State's record, by Miami's record, and by Notre Dame's record.
No, absolutely.
Florida State, probably.
I don't, but I'm not a believer in Florida State this year. I like Feinbaum.
But just the
never said anything right, and I agreed with him today, which made me feel very awful inside. I'm just not a believer in Florida State.
Ghost, aren't you just happy nobody said Texas A&M should be in the tier 1?
Round table here. Who would y'all? What non-conference matchup with an SEC team are y'all most concerned about?
I mean, obviously,
for that SEC team.
I'm pretty concerned with Michigan, but let me go outside. Let me think of another one.
Beat A&M, so I mean, I don't know if that's concerning, but
may I ask why you have Notre Dame winning that one?
Dude, I'm just multiple. I mean, I think Notre Dame's going to be a really good team this year. I like Riley Leonard under center for them. That's to me a college football playoff caliber team. I know it's at Kyle Field. Show me A&M. Show me. I'm not putting my hand back on the burner, Ghost. I've picked A&M to win 9 or 10 games in many seasons previous, and it's blown up. And I just think in year one of a new head coach, and let me say the thing about this about home field environment. It's a big deal, but do you know how quickly you can quiet a crowd? Just make one big play, and it's like they're gone. And I'm not taking anything away from Kyle Field, but you're going to need more than the home. You're going to need more than the 12th man to beat Notre Dame. And game one of a new regime, a lot of moving pieces. I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a really close game. It's a coin flip, but
so Chris, that's your most confident. If I said, Chris, you got to put $100 on an SEC team losing a non-conference game. That's it.
Yeah, it'd be that one. Yeah.
Cool.
See, I have Texas A&M winning by 10.
I feel more confident about it.
There's going to be very split. And there's going to be split predictions on that game.
Yeah, there is. It's going to be pretty 50-50. I think people will change their mind late with that too.
What would you say is your most non-conference game, Chris? I mean, not Dave.
The one I don't feel good about from the SEC.
I don't feel good about.
I'm really not even talking about the traditional rival. I'm not really considering Florida State. Florida State. I mean, the non-conference early. Yeah, I mean, because I'm pretty 50-50. I probably go 55-45 right now with it in A&M's favor. I mean, it's probably that one. I mean, I think something to be interesting, a conversation that nobody's prepared for, myself included, would be what if NC State beat Tennessee? And what if that did randomly happen? Because I don't think Clemson beats Georgia. I think Texas sets up perfectly to go beat Michigan. I'd probably piggyback on Chris, though, on his – I like A&M as it gets closer, but that's the one I'd be, not shocked if Notre Dame won.
NC State, Tennessee is for me. And the reason why is because what if we're coming down to one more ACC team getting in? And Tennessee is that 10-2 squad, and they're one loss in the conference, comes to – Georgia, but they beat Alabama and they beat Oklahoma and they beat up on everybody else, but they lose to Georgia and they lose to NC State. And now we're talking about 10-2 and Alabama's in and Ole Miss is in and Georgia is in and Texas is in. And now we're saying, well, there's a 10-2 Miami squad. There's a 10-2 Florida State squad. There's a 9-3 NC State squad, and there's a 10-2 Tennessee squad. Why are we going to reward Tennessee when the 9-3 NC State's not going to get in, but they won the head-to-head? So to me, when you look at for the rankings part and for the fairness of college football when it comes to how many teams get in per conference, a team like NC State beating Nico Iamaleava so early on in the season with that defense, with that run game, with that ability to pass down the field, with what you know are the question marks about Tennessee, they may attack them early to where it may come back to bite them in the butt. Like there's always that one game that you talk about early on in the season. I'll never forget A&M 2020. They lose to Alabama. It was the all SEC season. They go 8-1. They're undefeated the rest of the year. That one loss kept them out of the college football playoff. That one loss. It was in week 2. What if that week 2 loss keeps Tennessee out of the playoff?
Yeah, that A&M loss was really ugly, wasn't it? Like 52.
It was 42-14.
Yeah,
and it was 14-7 at one point, and then
Bama
immediately Alabama turned it on.
Yeah, Bama went on like a 12-0 run real fast in basketball terms.
No, I'm talking about football.
No. I'm with you, but Bama went on a very quick run. You're right. Yeah. It was close. They were like a tidal wave. You're right. It was like they were down 21 before you blinked.
It was at halftime. They were down by 21. They were down going into the fourth quarter by 28 points. Like that's how bad it was in that game.
Yeah.
And it was close for a moment, but that loss hurt A&M. And what was so funny was because they gave it to Ohio State, and Ohio State only played 5 games that year.
Didn't A&M not play Ole Miss that year because of COVID?
They didn't play Ole Miss that year because of COVID.
I'd say there were a couple games they dropped.
They missed
They rescheduled it twice, and after the second time, because the COVID rules were, they didn't want to keep pushing stuff back. If you had to cancel a second time, you just cancel the game that year. So they canceled that game because it was supposed to be moved the week before the Tennessee game. They played Tennessee. They didn't get to play that game. So they're 8-1. They give the nod because Notre Dame won against Clemson. Clemson got in. Notre Dame got in as for the ACC representative, and they gave the nod to Ohio State, even though they only played 5 games.
Correct. And Ohio State, the Big Ten had to get in. Yeah.
And Ohio State technically didn't need to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin Fields is a really good player, but tons of talent everywhere. But I mean, when you play 5 games, A&M literally almost has twice the resume as you. You know, I know a lot of Aggies are sad about that. They remind me of that season all the time. I am firm in the stance that no season during COVID should count as anything, and I strictly say that because A&M had a terrific season. Big Clayton Kershaw fan. This is the only ring he got. I'm like, okay, well that's okay. But so I mean, with A&M, Texas. Obviously, you guys, I don't know if any of you have experienced Texas versus A&M on the football field in person. As Cole said earlier, there's a lot of young students, fans that are in for a big time awakening when they get to that environment. It's going to be heated. It's going to be intense. I think that it's obviously long overdue for the state, and we need that game. Chris, tell me why you think Texas drops the game at Kyle Field this year. That's our only loss, according to you. I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think A&M is going to be wildly inconsistent. I think they're going to be one of the most volatile teams in the SEC. I believe in Mike Elko on the defensive side. I'll give him a lot of credit there. He's never fielded a bad defense. We've talked about that before. They're not starting with an empty, with a barren roster. They've got a lot of talent. Offensively, I think Connor Wegman, if he stays healthy, I think he will stay healthy. I think he can be a top 5 quarterback in the league. Like him a lot. Guys like Moose Muhammad on the outside there, at wide receiver. Despite losing Ruben Owens, I think at running back they're going to be stout with Le'Veon Moss. And the offensive line, I think, should be better. So, again, I think A&M is going to be inconsistent. I think anytime you're year one of a new head coach, I think something that people don't give enough credit to is that there's going to be guys that are on that roster that maybe they weren't thrilled that Jimbo was let go, or they're not totally bought in. You get less of this with the portal era because guys can leave, but it's just there's a lot of loose ends to tie together. But I tell you, if there's one game I think A&M is going to show up and play their best game, it's that one. I just and I've heard that's a throw the record books out the window kind of game, and obviously I'm taking kind of a flyer on that and picking a massive upset, and I very well could be wrong, and I'm ready to be wrong. And I know I just mentioned how easy it is to silence a home crowd, but man, I mean, I got a little taste. I remember watching the last couple, Texas A&M games, but getting a taste of that rivalry with the Jim Schlossnagle thing, Good God, man. I mean, it's going to be nasty, pure hatred. So I very well could be wrong, but I think in a season in which A&M will be up and down and be inconsistent, I will not be surprised if A&M finds a way to put together one of their, if not their best performance of the season against Texas. I think they're going to give Texas their best shot. I absolutely do.
Absolutely.
And it might be good enough to win on that night.
So I, as the native Texan, I will just say, Chris already knows how appreciative I am that he hired me, that he believes in me, and that he thinks that I am somebody that works really due diligently, and I'm able to convince people that you should continue to subscribe to the channel. With that being said, you are a moron. I can't believe you made that prediction. How dare you go out and say something along those lines, Christopher? Again, and it goes for you as well. How dare you? Because if you know this fan base. You know that they are volatile as all hell, and that they will hold this over your head all offseason. Like, that's the one thing about A&M. They'll go 8-4, but they'll say, we beat Texas. We beat Texas. Texas can win the national title, and they'll treat this like it is even Steven. That's the way that they are.
Co-champions, baby.
Co-champions, because if we beat the champions, they'll use that, because they did in 2012 with the Heisman Trophy. We had the Heisman Trophy winner, Johnny Manziel, 29-24. But Alabama won. But we have the Heisman, and we have the Heisman. Yeah, but they won the Natty. But we have the Heisman. It doesn't work. The one thing I will say about Chris that is 100% right. A&M wakes up for the big games. Every single year, they wake up for the big games. The problem that I have with A&M, because I have them going 7-5 right now, they don't wake up for the games that they have to. The ones that are supposed to be ranked. The ones that are supposed to be on the same level. They will wake up and they will play well against Notre Dame. They will wake up and play well against Texas. They will wake up well and play against LSU. They're going to struggle, and they're going to lose to South Carolina on the road to South Carolina. I think that's a giant loss. I think they could lose to Auburn. I think they could get obliterated by Missouri, because they don't wake up for the games that they're supposed to be the evenly matched. They wake up for the contest that they have to show up for. And so that's a game that they have to show up for.
Yeah, I don't like that Auburn game on the schedule where that is for them. That's another tough. It's a tough. The week before you play the biggest game, home game in a decade. The Colts, that Missouri game could be one of the bigger games in the league. Missouri will be undefeated rolling into that game. I mean, if A&M beat Notre Dame and Florida, I mean, those would be two big wins, but that wouldn't be totally shocking. I mean, I fully expect Missouri to be undefeated rolling in there.
That's the thing about A&M is they have all the big games at home, and everybody's kind of fixated on those big games. But like Cole just mentioned, they're pretty good at dropping a few games that they should win. Not that my school hasn't done the same here recently, but I'm curious. You go to Auburn, you have that big just blood feud rivalry with South Carolina that they're going to have to go deal with. And, I don't know their full schedule off the top of my head, but obviously Missouri, LSU, Texas, Notre Dame at home. You win 2 of those games. You're still talking about
3.
Yeah,
Florida. That's tougher because
they traditionally, Jimbo had the stat. Jimbo never beat the 2 Mississippi schools in the same.
Yeah, at Mississippi State, they play like crap there for some reason.
They do. They
every year
under Jimbo, they never beat both Mississippi State and Ole Miss in the same year. They always split or lost both.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys all getting out here, coming on the channel. I would love to have every one of you out here again. I know that we really didn't have plans. We talked about a little bit of everything. Thank you guys for running with it and just showing our guys a good time. Everyone in the comments, I appreciate you all. If you don't mind, if you're watching on Twitter, I've got a link to this channel in my bio. Hop on there, subscribe to the channel, like this video, get on there, subscribe and like to all the SEC Unfiltered gang stuff. Check them out, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Y'all are on TikTok too. Y'all are on literally everything. So check them out. Go like all their stuff. Subscribe. We're going to get them out of here. They've all been, like I said, these guys don't sleep. They probably have another show to do 15, 20 minutes from now. I think Dave, got to get the bottle ready. But guys, thank y'all very much. One thing I didn't do next time, if there's a next time, I'm going to have a trivia question for each of you. I'm trying to stump every guest that comes on. I think we're like 1 for 12 so far. So, when you guys get on, be ready for that. Forgive me for that. But thank you all. Everyone have a good night. Thank you guys.